Hey, what are you doing? I hope you're doing okay. All right, it's me, Nick Digilio. I got a podcast, the Nick D Podcast, every Tuesday, Friday, brand new episodes every week. We're approaching 100 episodes. Great entertainment podcast, very funny, very entertaining, filled with movie reviews and TV reviews. We talk about books, we talk about music, we have great guests. Esmeralda Leon is my co-host. We do live versions of the podcast. The next one is going to be at Zanies in Rosemont, Tuesday, January 17th. Mark the calendar down, get your tickets now. Rosemont.zanies.com. Surprise guests. We'll give away some really cool prizes, interactive stuff with the audience. We had a blast when we did the live version of it in November, and we're going to have a blast in January. So get your tickets now, rosemont.zanies.com. Nick D Podcast Live, January 17th. Got a new podcast coming out in January, a new one all about Saturday Night Live. I'll give you details on that, but that drops in January. Also on radiomisfits.com. It's called That Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years, an SNL podcast. And it has been, because people are idiots who say that. People who say that show hasn't been funny in years about SNL either haven't watched it or are morons. But anyway, we'll get into that some other time. So I review movies on the Steve Cochran Show every other Friday, WLS AM 890. Make sure you tune in for that, 5:30 to 9 o'clock. The best morning drive show in the city. And I'm a part of that. I review movies there and on my podcast. And so I thought I'd review a movie here on these videos here. And by the way, if you got little extra dough, throw it my way. All the stuff that I do is free. It'd be cool if you gave some money at Patreon. Patreon.com/NickDShow. Pick a tier, $3 to $25, whatever you want to give. It all helps out. It all helps out. Trust me. So if you want to be cool, please give a little dough. Patreon.com/NickDShow. All right. So there's a new Christmas movie that is out that's like Christmas, dark, crazy Christmas satire thing. We get these every few years. There's a Christmas movie that comes out, or a dark one, or a horror movie, or an action movie, or whatever. Some sort of takeoff on the world of Christmas in an effort to release a movie that the studios and the stars and the producers hope will hit a nerve with people, and it becomes a movie that everybody watches every year. And as we now celebrate Christmas for 6 fucking months, it seems, it drives me crazy. It drives me fucking crazy. Christmas, in my opinion, should be celebrated Christmas Eve, December 24th around 6 p.m. to December 25th around 4 p.m. Fuck everything before it, and definitely fuck everything after it. You put your tree up around 16th, 17th, 18th of December, and you take it down on January 2nd. That's it. No, nothing before that. All these motherfuckers who put their Christmas trees up the day after Halloween, it's bullshit. Bullshit. God, I hate it. So anyway, people start celebrating Christmas before fucking Halloween. That stupid WLIT FM, they start playing that goddamn Mariah Carey and all those ridiculous Christmas songs 24 hours a day at the end of October. Get the fuck out of here with that crap. Anyway, yeah, I'm a Scrooge when it comes to that shit. I'm not the biggest Christmas guy in the world at all, and I especially hate the fact that Christmas is everywhere, even before Thanksgiving is over. Take a goddamn break. Celebrate Thanksgiving, give it a couple of weeks, and then do your dumbass Christmas shit. Ridiculous. I took the train in to see a movie on the L. I was taking the L in, and I looked at all the houses in the apartments, and it's not even December yet. I'm recording this on November 30th, like 4 days ago. Right after Thanksgiving, all the houses, like 80% of the houses had lights and Christmas trees up. It's way too early. What the fuck is wrong with you people? God, I hate it. Jesus Christ. Hey, let's start celebrating Christmas in July, and why don't we stop? Oh, I don't know, March? Fuck off. Anyway, so Christmas movies. I'm a delight when it comes to Christmas. I don't give a shit. Anyway, but the thing is, I like Christmas movies when they're good. I like Christmas satires. I like dark Christmas movies. I like Christmas horror movies. One of my favorite horror movies of all time is Black Christmas, the original 1974 movie. So I'm not against Christmas in movies or Christmas movies or anything like that. I just think it's absolutely absurd that people start putting up Christmas and start celebrating Christmas in fucking November or October and continue it through February. It's absurd! Why don't we do that for Halloween? We should start celebrating Halloween in August and end that motherfucking holiday in November, the next year. Anyway, so there's this new goddamn Christmas movie called Violent Night, and it's been, advertised all over the place. I saw it. It stars David Harbour, who is the sheriff on Stranger Things, who got popular because of that. He's been in a couple of other things. They tried to do Hellboy with him, and it didn't work out. But he's definitely basically known as the dude from Stranger Things. Stranger Things was just a show that for some reason, I continued to watch. Don't know why. Don't like it anymore. Don't fucking care at all about it. But I mean, when it first came on, I was on board. I liked the first couple of seasons. I was with it, and it decreased in quality and increased in pretension as the seasons went on. Like the last season, like get the fuck out. Best thing that happened out of the last season were 16-year-olds suddenly found out who Kate Bush was. That's the only good goddamn thing that came out of the last season of Stranger Things. Strange Days. That's a good movie. That's a New Year's Eve movie. We'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, so he's in Stranger Things. And in this movie, he plays Santa Claus, the real Santa Claus. And it's a satire, a dark, violent action takeoff in the world of using Santa Claus as your action hero. Beginning of the movie, he's the real Santa. He's in a pub in England, and he's getting drunk because he's disillusioned. The kids, all they do is want. They've turned into little shits. They either want money, they don't do good, they're naughty. All they want are video games and money. And he's disillusioned. He hates it. Christmas has been commercialized for all these years, and Santa's getting drunk, and he's at a pub with a person who plays Santa like a shopping mall Santa. They all think he's not a real Santa, but he is. And he gets drunk, and he hates Christmas some more, and he's the actual Santa. Goes up to the roof of the pub. Someone runs up to try and stop him, and he flies away on the sled with the reindeer, and they're like, oh, it's Santa. And then he's drunk, and he throws up blah on the person's head, the woman who's looking up at them. And that's your opening scene. It's like, oh, Santa got drunk, he got in the sleigh, and he vomited on someone. Evidently, no one has seen Bad Santa. Who wrote this movie? The Billy Bob Thornton movie from like 20 years ago? No, I guess nobody saw Bad Santa. Which, by the way, is also a terrible movie. So anyway, that's the beginning of the movie. So Santa's disillusioned. There's a real Santa. He's out there. There really is a Santa. And he's a drunk, disillusioned asshole. He hates everything, doesn't believe in the spirit of Christmas anymore, and he's an alcoholic dickhead who goes from house to house, judges the cookies that he gets, throws up when he gets milk, and all that stuff. He's Billy Bob Thornton, but the real Santa. And so there. Now, meanwhile, there's this estate on this rich person's, this incredibly multi-billionaire rich family is having a Christmas gathering on Christmas Eve with the family. Beverly D'Angelo plays the billionaire woman, the leader of the family, and all of her family shows up. They all want her money. They're all trying to be nice to her. And there is a guy whose ex-wife and daughter are there, and the little daughter named Trudy is there. And they're having a divorce, and they want to get back together. There is the daughter and her husband and their kid, and they desperately want the woman's money and blah, blah, blah. She's like a billionaire. And a bunch of mercenaries come in, led by John Leguizamo. They storm the estate. They kill all the security. And they're going to take this $300 million that's in a safe in the basement from this estate, and they hold all the family hostage on Christmas Eve, in the middle of Christmas, and they're going to steal this money, and that's it. But Santa happens to be there. David Harbour as Santa, the real Santa. And then all hell breaks loose. And ultimately what it turns into, it's like, if John McClane were actually Santa, that's what this movie is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an action takeoff, a violent action movie, but the joke is, the twist is, oh, it's Santa. It's the real Santa who's killing mercenaries and terrorists and beating the shit out of people, and it's all about getting the Christmas spirit back in a dark and violent action comedy way, and it all sucks. It's terrible. It's not funny, not even remotely funny. Any attempts at comedy fall completely flat. The performances are completely over the top. The writing is like basic comedy. It's like bad sketch comedy written in a movie's almost 2 hours long. It's way too fucking long. And it's really inconsistent in its style, and it's inconsistent in what it tries to do. Like, it establishes Santa, like he's a real Santa, and he can do magic shit. He's got like magic powers. He's got the magic bag, and he's lived for 80 million years, and he was once a Viking in a flashback. So he's lived like thousands of years, and yet there are moments in the movie where he like gets shot and might die, and you're like, what? And then they just bring up the words Christmas magic every once in a while, and even the character that David Harbour plays, the Santa character, is like, I don't know how it works, but it works. So conveniently, the screenplay has a lot of definite outs You know, like they'll back the characters, the screenwriters will back their characters into a corner and then suddenly write them out by going, oh yeah, there's Christmas magic. So the logic that's set up, even the rules that are established in this movie, which you're supposed to, have, a sense of fantasy about it, you're supposed to accept this world, use a little imagination. But even within the rules that they set up, they cheat. So you can't trust it. So basically, it's basically like, it's a Die Hard setup, except John McClane is actually the real Santa, and he has to save these asshole rich people and the mercenaries, and there's all kinds of Christmas jokes and all kinds of dark comedy. It's very violent. Santa beats people with sledgehammers, and there's a lot of shooting and a lot of stuff that you would see in the Die Hard action movie genre. It's all there. It's all played for laughs. And sometimes it gets sentimental, and oh, the little girl wants to bond with Santa, and the father said that Santa doesn't exist, and all this horseshit. So the movie tries to have its cake and eat it too, and then get the cake back and eat it and frost it and eat it again. And it fails on every fucking level. The action is terribly shot, and ridiculously edited. None of the fight scenes work. The guy who produced this movie is the guy responsible for fucking Bullet Train, that terrible Brad Pitt action all-star extravaganza piece of shit that came out this summer. This moron produced this movie. And the guy who directed it directed Dead Snow 1 and 2, which are actually not terrible movies, and they're about zombie Nazis. And they take place in the winter. So I guess this guy's qualified to make an action comedy about Santa Claus because he made 2 movies about Nazi zombies. And those movies, Dead Snow, not terrible, not great movies, but they're not bad. They're not nearly as bad as this. So he's responsible for that. The guys who wrote this movie take a lot of pot shots at video games in this movie, like slam video games, about how stupid they are, about how dumb kids are who want video games. I mean, they go out of their way, scene after scene after scene, to rip apart video games, rip apart kids who like video games, and just make fun of how fucking stupid they are. Well, the credits that these morons who wrote this movie, one of their credits is, well, they wrote both Sonic Hedgehog movies, and they write for video games, so maybe they were taking a little shot at their own, at their own genre that they write for. I guess that's like their little inside joke. Hey, we write video games and we write video game movies, so we can. And even the pot shots they take, it's nothing more than say there's no satire there. It's simply dialogue like, hey, video games are stupid, and kids who watch and play video games are stupid. There's no satire. There's nothing to be said. So anyway, so it's from the director of the zombie Nazi movies, and the writers wrote Sonic the Hedgehog. So that pretty much it gives you a prime example of the intelligence that's on display in this movie. So let's see. David Harbour's in it. Beverly D'Angelo, as I mentioned, is in it. She plays the matriarch of the family. I guess she's in it because she was in Christmas Vacation, I guess. David Harbour is associated with Stranger Things. There's a lot of Christmassy elements that have always been associated with Stranger Things. I mean, one of the major components of Stranger Things is a string of Christmas lights. So he's in it because of that. John Leguizamo, who, by the way, is in The Menu right now, which is a much better movie, a terrific satire, much, much better than this. He was in Super Mario Brothers. Oh, it's a video game movie. What do you know? Is that supposed to be satire? No, I think it's coincidence. He was also in like a lot of action movies, including Executive Decision, where he kind of plays a very similar role, like a mercenary role. Executive Decision, which was the Kurt Russell gets killed in the first 10 minutes and the rest of the movie sucks, Steven Seagal thing. Leguizamo's a bad guy in that, so he's had experience in this. And one of the movies that they rip off completely in this movie is Die Hard 2. Not just Die Hard, I mean, obviously the setup is all Die Hard, but there are sequences that are taken directly from Die Hard 2, including killing somebody with an icicle. That's John McClane kills Meat from Porky's. If you remember Meat from Porky's, he gets an icicle in the eye in Rennie Harlin's brilliant Die Hard 2. They steal that. There are snowmobile things. It takes place at night in the middle of the snow. Die Hard 2 is more ripped off than Die Hard is in this movie. And guess who's in Die Hard 2? John Leguizamo. So yeah, I guess that's, John Leguizamo was in Die Hard 2. Okay, let's cast him as the mercenary. Leguizamo has terrible dialogue. It is as generic and one-note performance and a horribly written villain, action movie villain. And the dialogue, they try to be funny and have kids say fuck. Beverly D'Angelo has horrible things to say because she's the rich matriarch. None of it is funny. What they think is cutting edge isn't. There is a long sequence where Santa beats the shit out of a bunch of people with a sledgehammer. That's all done to Bryan Adams' Christmas Time song, which is a song that I really like. And there's a whole long sequence where Santa murders like 27 terrorists, and that's all done to the Bryan Adams song. And that's supposed to be funny, I guess. It's not. Every attempt at humor falls completely flat. David Harbour is once again proving, and I'm sorry to say this, he's very limited. You know what he's good at? He's good at playing the sheriff on Stranger Things. And you know what else he's good at? He's good at playing the sheriff on Stranger Things. And you know what else he's been good in? He's pretty good at playing the sheriff in Stranger Things. And in this movie, as Santa, as the disillusioned drunk Santa who brings the Christmas spirit back, you know what? He's really good as the sheriff on Stranger Things. This is a terrible movie that falls flat on every level. The action is bad. The satire is non-existent. The jokes are lowbrow. The performances are as forced and heavy-handed and ridiculous as possible. I mean, Leguizamo, way over the top. Beverly D'Angelo, embarrassingly one-note and bad in this. All the supporting characters, the Jagoff family who want the money, they're all one-note. It's all badly written. It's a terrible script. It's not funny. The action isn't good. It's a fucking disaster on every level. Now, what they're shooting for here is satire of action, satire of Christmas, and they fail on every level. Bad Santa, which is an awful movie in my opinion, at least got some of that stuff right. Like taking on Christmas as a black comedy, taking all the wonderful elements of Christmas and twisting them and making them black and dark. Okay, that's what this movie tries to do, fails. It owes a great debt to Bad Santa. I mean, that opening scene, I was like, oh, okay, so it's Bad Santa. And then it owes a debt to, obviously, Die Hard 2, all of those big action movies, and some of the other dark Santa movies that are so much better than this. Look, if you want dark Santa, go watch Silent Night, Deadly Night. What's the first Silent Night, Deadly Night? Or Christmas Evil. You want that stuff. You want to watch Badass Santa? You could watch, here's the deal. Watch Rare Exports. Here's the thing, like after I saw this movie, I immediately was like, man, I think I should go home and watch Rare Exports. And if you've never seen Rare Exports, I'm not going to go into description of it, only that it's 80 million thousand times better than this dumbass movie and does everything that this movie attempts to do in 2 hours, Rare Exports does in the first 10 minutes. Rare Exports is a great movie, a great, twisted, wholly original Christmas movie that's dark and fucked up and awesome. And if you've never seen it, write this down, Rare Exports, and rent it and watch it instead of this dumbass movie. Now, the supporting characters are all ridiculous. Everything in it doesn't work at all. What else did I want to mention? So there's like rich people jokes that don't work, and then when it tries to get all sentimental and emotional at the end, it fails miserably. It's a terrible movie that owes a debt to tons of other much better, much funnier, much more satirical, much more action-filled movies. It's a bad movie, and again, David Harbour as Santa, he's okay as the sheriff on Stranger Things. Now, we'll say this: there is a sequence in the movie that actually works. One sequence. The little kid is like trapped and the terrorists are coming to get her. And she says, well, I just watched Home Alone. So she rigs up a bunch of booby traps that are inspired by the shit that Macaulay Culkin did in the first Home Alone movie and all the Home Alone movies, or however many they are. Now, if you know me at all, if you've listened to me for the years, I hate Home Alone. I hate it with every fiber of my being. Back in the day when it first came out, Roy Leonard and I reviewed it. We both hated it. We both gave it a horrible review. We said it's like, well, I personally think that it's the best holiday movie ever made about child abuse. And it's a horrible movie. It's completely horrible, and the slapstick is done in a way that is so anti like Three Stooges. It is played for pain and it's an evil, terrible, unfunny, awful fucking movie. And the fact that people think it's a holiday classic boggles my mind. It is a piece of fucking shit about an abused kid who's left alone by his family, who lashes out at adults by torturing these two fucking lunkheads who come to his house. That's what that movie's about. It's a kid who's been abused who is lashing out at the world of adults by torturing them with devices. So the only good sequence in this Violent Night movie is when the kid sets up some traps, and there are about 4 of them that are set up on two terrorists, and they're all brought out very realistically and very violently. Like what really happens when you get smashed in the face with a bowling ball, or when a nail is placed on a ladder, or when you fall back on something. What really happens? And the scenes are violent, and they're horrifying, and they absolutely reflect what they did in Home Alone. So the one sequence in the movie is the sort of satire of Home Alone, where they take these horrifying booby traps that this little fucker made in the Home Alone movies, and they show the actual things that will happen to someone, the consequences of what happens to a human being and a human body when you set up these things. And it's very violent, and it's the only time the movie hits the notes that it's supposed to hit. It's the only time it becomes it satirizes Home Alone in a beautiful, violent way. So there's one sequence where the movie rips apart the horribleness of fucking Home Alone and those dumbass booby traps, and shows exactly the real-life body consequences of what happens. That's the only scene in the movie that works. And then it just goes back to being a piece of shit. So, Violent Night. Awful. One of the worst movies I've seen all year, except for that little stretch that rips apart the shittiness of Home Alone. That's it. There are tons of other movies to watch that fall into this category, the first of which, as I mentioned, is Rare Exports. So, Violent Night, not good. People in it that are talented that are wasted time. And Cam, what's his name? Cam, what the hell is his name? Gigande. Cam Gigande, who was in like Never Back Down, and he was in the Twilight movies. He's an action star. He plays like a satire of himself, a parody of himself, of a kung fu action star. And even him, playing that role doesn't work because the material is written by guys who wrote Sonic the Hedgehog. So anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody. Violent Night's a piece of shit. There are so many other cooler, better Christmassy satires or dark Christmas movies, and at the top of that list, as I mentioned, is Rare Export. So, Violent Night, skip it, because it's shit. Thank you. Enjoy the veal.